Hello everyone. So on the night of 11th November, the UPSC mains results were released. And while few have made it to the next stage, many of the students have not been able to. So it's a difficult time for us. We are going through a very difficult moment, nights and days. We are still wondering, where did I go wrong? And it's quite understandable because after months and years of discipline, sacrifices, consistent answer writing practice, it's very natural to think and wonder that what mistake did I do? What wrong did I commit? Where is my luck? So, apart from the luck, here I am to discuss that what could be the possible shortcomings or lacunas in your preparation and mindset. So I understand that yes, it's very difficult moments for you. You're feeling angry, you're feeling sad, you're feeling guilty, you're feeling depressed. You are simply wondering what's happening? Where am I going wrong? Or you could be simply comparing your journey with another person who has got the interview call, and that person could be your close friend. It could be somebody studying along with you in library, or it could be some cousin or far off relative's daughter or son. All these feelings are very natural, and I would recommend that you should process your emotions. Nobody's going to judge you. Whatever feelings you have, of course, you don't have to tell it to all the people around you, but it's okay to feel all these negative emotions. But you also need to understand that there's a spiral of negative emotions. It's a rabbit hole, it's a black hole. And if you go on feeling these negative emotions day in, day out, there's a possibility that you are just pushing yourself towards another failure or another miscalculated attempt. So it's okay. Take a break of few days if you want to. If you want to process your emotions, please do so. Whatever you're feeling, angry, sad, depressed, you're in comparison mode, that's totally okay. But you have to bounce back. You have to come back. You can't keep on crying and cribbing days on end. You want to journal it out. You want to write your feelings in a diary. You want to talk to a therapist. You want to talk to some senior who can help you and guide you. You want to watch some videos, whatever suits you. Or you want to just, shut off the world, take a 1 day or 2 days to, actually gather your thoughts. Whatever works for you, please do that. But after that deadline, after that completion of mourning period that you have to pick yourself up again. You have to restart. You have to very pragmatically and realistically take the perspective that there is definitely something missing. And I'm not just saying it is missing in your preparation or missing in your studies, missing something in your content and notes making and answer writing. But something is surely amiss. It could be even your mindset, it could be even in your environment. So, do take a quick analysis, do a self analysis, have this self awareness that what is stopping you, what's really not working in your favor, right? Because we don't have time to lose. Even if you plan to give the next attempt or do not plan to give the next attempt, that's totally fine. That's the individual decision that you have to make. But you don't have time to sit and cry for days and months on end. Okay? So please process your emotions. That's your job to do. And moving forward, what is my idea? So, first of all, we need to accept that if we haven't cleared mains, it doesn't mean that we are not capable. It simply means that our strategy or something else is truly missing, right? So please don't blame yourself. Don't be in a self-pity mode for a very long period of time. Take a quick look at whatever strategy you were trying to follow up till now, and definitely it has not worked for you. So you need to recalibrate, you need to reassess, you need to reorient, you need to modify your strategy. You want to do it on your own, you want to take somebody's help, that's perfectly fine. Whatever suits you, whatever works for you. But don't blame yourself, right? And don't blame your capability. We have seen students from diverse backgrounds, students from elite institutions, students from not so elite institutions, students from open schools, students who have done distance, learning and distance graduation. They have been able to qualify. It simply matters what you're doing now, not what you have done earlier or what's your background. What you're doing currently, what you're doing in the present moment is what is going to create a difference in the future. Your past, if you're just going to tag it along, just take it as a burden, carry it with yourself every time you're doing something in life, then of course it's going to impact your future too. So you have to come out of this self-pity, you have to come out of this doubt that you are not capable. You are lacking, yes, you have a shortcoming, true. Might be that your perspective, your strategy is not correct. That is also true, that can also happen. But it doesn't mean that you don't have it in you to make it to UPSC civil service examination, right? So let's actually understand that what is lacking. Now, before I actually start the discussion on the real aspects, like, lack of answer writing practice or those kind of issues, I really want to focus on those aspects too of your personal life, which usually students ignore. Because, you might have heard people saying this, पढ़ने वाले बच्चे कहीं भी पढ़ लेते हैं. You are given this opportunity. Why you're not studying? Why you're not preparing? So all of this, sort of is, I would say, misleading. You need to be very understanding of this fact that what's happening in your environment and what are those factors which are maybe not so supportive for your this journey of UPSC preparation. So please do a self awareness, thing, maybe a SWOT analysis. That's what it's called, your strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats, whatever you want to, call it. You need to be aware that is there anything which is, distracting you? Is there any negativity around you which is making you doubt yourself? So there could be a lot of reasons, right? I have listed down few questions so that we can, just understand that what is that external thing that's maybe not supporting us, okay? And if it's under our control, we have to, of course, work to remove it or work to actually make it start working in our favor. So are you distracted? And distractions could be anything, even social media. It could be distractions from friends, family, commitments, obligations, commitments to attend weddings, commitments to attend functions, commitment to, taking care of your siblings, taking care of your parents. It could be anything. There is, if a possibility of a distraction present in your life, you really need to solve it out. Okay, so please figure these out. Then, is it your underconfidence, anxiety, or fear about the exam? Are you constantly doubting yourself? Are you constantly saying a negative, there's a negative monologue happening inside of yourself that you cannot do it, you cannot, make it because, there are far better people, around you who deserve more. If that kind of thought process is there, you really need to tackle that. So stop doubting yourself. If your underconfidence is something which is pulling you back, if there's a lot of anxiety and fear around the examination process, and on the day of the exam, you feel a lot of anxiety, You start getting palpitations. There's, either shallow breathing or very, fast breathing. If you start sweating, you have these, aspects going on, then you really need to work on it. Okay. Now, each of the things that I'm discussing right now might take up, 30-40 minutes individual discussion. So here I am just putting out certain questions to you so that you can figure it out for yourself what is not working, in your favor, which is, opposing your success. Okay. So if it's your own emotions, your own anxiety, your own feelings of, fear around the exam, please take certain actions to tackle that. You need to tell yourself that people from different backgrounds have made it in this exam. People who were not so academically good, who were not so, well qualified, even for that matter, who did not belong to elite institutions, and still they have been able to. So it's a competitive exam, and the past doesn't matter. What's mattering is actually what you're doing in the present. And if you're aware of certain shortcomings, why don't you work on it? Why to develop a fear around it? If you're not good with your handwriting, develop, practice an eligible, like a legible handwriting. Don't keep on telling yourself that, okay, I have a bad handwriting. I have a bad handwriting. How is that going to solve your purpose? How is it going to help you? If you know that, yes, your handwriting is problematic, it's illegible, people have told you this, your mentors, your evaluators have mentioned this on your copy, then you really need to take certain steps to solve it. You can't just claim and do nothing about it. So be aware of your problem, and if you can solve it by taking certain steps, good. If you have to take external help to solve that problem, please do so. Don't keep on ignoring it. Right? Then, is it your health issue? I have commonly seen many students falling sick just before the exam or 1 month before the exam. And, they're battling those challenges. Now, of course, some things are not under our control. There could be an unexpected, unanticipated health issue, stomach ache, or whatever. That's fine. But if you have a chronic, disease, if you have some persistent health issue, please work on that. Please work on correcting that to an extent so that it doesn't really harm you. It doesn't really, bother your performance and productivity during the examination time. Students study throughout the year, but just near to the exam, something or else is happening. They are getting hospitalized. And then, of course, if you're not studying, if you're not revising near to the exam, it's not, possible to give your best in the actual exam. And sickness is, of course, going to take your motivation, it's going to take your energy, it's going to take your enthusiasm, and it's going to fill you up with negative thoughts. So if you have a health issue, going on, please take care of it. This is the right time to take care of it. You want to opt for some physical activity, you want to, go for some medicines, whatever is the solution, please start doing that. Don't ignore your health, because months and years of practice, months and years of devotion can really, really, work for you if you have health by your side. Okay. So if it's about health, you have to take care of that. Is it your family? Is it the financial situation? Or is it your plain emotions? Are you an emotional person? Anybody can manipulate you. Anybody can distract you. Anybody comes into your room and tells you to do this work, and you get up leaving everything and you go and do that work. Do you have difficulty in saying no? Do you have some, persistent family issues going on? Do you have some persistent financial, you could say situation going on? Lack of proper finances, lack of, you could say financial support. So if that all is your problem, please don't think that these problems will keep on happening and you will be able to, qualify the exam. See, we do have cases where people, in spite of all challenges, have been able to qualify. But frankly, I really don't believe in rags to riches wala story. or I don't believe in, drastic change wala story. Why? Because the instances, the example, the percentage is very low. There's, one in a million, example where we have seen this. What about the other people? So it's good to not think of yourself as an unconventional example, as an, you could say in this situation, actually, I would say it's better to actually go for that. Every situation needs to work in your favor. You should not be struggling with basic needs on a daily basis. You should have mental support, emotional support of your family, of your, of your loved ones, so that you feel peaceful, you feel calm, you feel good. We as humans, need this all, emotions and goodness around us. Because everywhere you can't fight off negativity. You cannot wake up every morning and fight off challenges. So if you have anything going on, whatever I have mentioned up till now, please take care of it. If it's a solvable issue, please solve it. If it's an issue where you have to firmly say no, please start saying no. Don't take your time and don't take your youth, your young years for granted. Don't take your 20s for granted. And yes, there will be people expecting you to do this chore, do this work, do this, do that, attend that wedding, do that. It's continuous, ongoing thing. You have to take a call that what is working for you, what is going to actually benefit you. And if something is harming you, it's wasting your time, in the long run, it's really not, going to help you. You have to really create a boundary. You have to start saying no to it. Okay. So all that is there and you have to figure it out. What's not working for you. Now, I really know that this is a persistent question, even with people who are into their initial attempts, 1 or 2 attempts, people who are into their, later attempts, like 4+ or 5+ attempts, or maybe the 6th attempt, and they are really, really, confused that should they actually give one more attempt or not. Now, there's no definite, a single answer, yes and no, that okay, by looking at the student, I can tell that yes, you look good, you look fine, you can give the next attempt, and no, you don't look fine, maybe, there's something weird in your hair, you can't give the next attempt. No, that's not how we do it. You need to, again, go for that introspection, go for that understanding that can you afford, and it's not just financially afford, but can you mentally, physically afford to go for one more attempt? Okay, I am nobody to give you a definite answer, but there is certain set of questions, there are certain emotions around this exam. If you are feeling those emotions, it could be a good, call to exit this UPSC cycle of giving the attempts and everything. But if you still have those, feelings, positive feelings that maybe I can do it, I still have that zeal and energy to sit for the one more attempt. So you can actually take a call to re-attempt this exam. So for people who feel that, they're doubting, that they're confused, what should be done? You have certain questions and you have certain criterias. What are those questions and criterias? Even after few days, you don't feel like picking up the books. So maybe right now you're grieving, right now you're, taking time to settle down your emotions. Maybe your parents call, back to your home, whatever. Maybe you plan to do a short vacation or travel, whatever you're doing, you're taking a break basically. But even after the break, you feel like not picking up the books. There is no zeal, energy left inside of you. I think that is where you start understanding that maybe you're not ready for the next attempt mentally. You feel tired and burnt out. That's very natural. Year in, year out, you're giving attempts, attempts by attempts, and you're literally feeling so tired. You feel that you have isolated yourself. You have not seen the actual world. You have no job experience. You have no experience of the real world for that matter. because just after the graduation you started preparing for UPSC, and now it has been 4-5 years post your graduation. You are literally burnt yourself out, and you feel that it's something, you're not gaining something out of this preparation. So if that's where these kind of questions is where you start getting your answers, that should you reattempt or not. Then you have started identifying with those posts, those social media, I would say, reels and YouTube videos where people have, or tweets maybe, where people have started blaming UPSC. They have, started saying that UPSC cycle is very toxic. See, I don't believe that, but my opinion here doesn't matter. If you have started identifying with these kind of posts, these kind of tweets, these kind of, articles, news, where you feel that, yes, this is true, UPSC is totally unfair, it's very toxic cycle, I'm just wasting my life. If those are the thoughts that you are getting, then of course, you have to exit yourself from this process. You believe you can do better in other field, and UPSC is not anymore your cup of tea. At one point of time, it was your cup of tea. You had interest, you really enjoyed studying, you were giving all. But now you feel that you have, detached yourself from the process. Now UPSC is not anymore enticing for you, right? Then if you were doing UPSC CSE for naive reasons, and I'm telling you, this is very common. It's really, really like, I have known people, I have known my own peer group for that matter. I have seen students in their talks, in their, the way they are telling about their family and whatever. There are many cases where people are doing this just to show off to relatives, just to, have this sense of superiority. So if a false reason is driving you, you will never find the motivation to continue. You will never find the, the zeal to give your best. Because external factors like these, showing off and, feeling that air of superiority because, yes, you're writing mains or something like that, or you're, when you go back to your village or your hometown, and people and, friends and family are just, sort of, I hope you get the feeling what they tend to do, right? The questionings and the, the appreciation and all that is there. So, these kind of superficial reasons is not going to get you success. It's never about what others think about you. What you think and believe is really going to matter a lot. If you feel that, yes, this is the, work profile you want, this is where you want to contribute back to society. And when I'm saying contribute back to society, I'm not talking from the service perspective, but I'm just talking from the perspective that every human being present on this world is actually supposed to have an occupation. And that occupation is, ranging from being a teacher to a barber to a, a shoesmith to a carpenter to an electrician to an engineer to a CEO of a big company, big five, whatever is your occupation. You can't just keep idle, right? So every person needs to have an occupation. And if you feel that, yes, that, work profile, that job, which really is going to give me satisfaction is, civil services and nothing else, I think those are your valid reasons. Not that, okay, I have to show it to some chacha tao, mama, all those people. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do unfair things to yourself. Just because somebody has asked you to do it, isko dikhana hai, usko dikhana hai, and, for this, and somebody was saying bad about you and bad about our family, you crack this exam and then we'll see them. Don't do that. Don't do that. Trust me on this. It's even if you become, and I'm not saying that these factors will stop you from becoming. Maybe if you become also, but then maybe your heart, you will not find your heart years later in this, particular field. So it's not just about cracking the exam. It's about staying in it. Okay. So if these are the factors that can tell you that maybe you should not reattempt, these are the questions or areas of, thought process which can tell you that you still have it in you. If you still feel the pull towards the exam, after a few days of break, you're still getting that feeling that, no, maybe let me try once more. And let me now try with a very practical mindset, being very realistic that, okay, where are my shortcomings? Okay, so if you're still feeling that pull, you have to reattempt. If you feel that your story is not over, your connection with UPSC is not over, kahani baki hai mere dost. So if that is the feeling going on, yes, why not? If you still have the energy, the enthusiasm, the discipline, and the commitment, mind it, discipline and commitment is very, very important. Don't depend on motivation every day, because it really doesn't happen like that. In your adult stage, if you're depending on motivation to do something in life, you are really going in a very difficult direction. Motivation is temporary. Motivation is not consistent. Nobody is sitting every day with an alarm clock or with, some motivational post to motivate you in the morning to wake up and start studying. You need to achieve anything in life. And this is not, this is a life lesson. This is not just for your UPSC. It's for every field, anything that you do in life. You cannot depend solely on motivation to do something in life. You have to be disciplined. You have to be committed to that thing. And that's why, why do we use the words commitment in relationship? Because as humans, our chemistry might, make us prone to get infatuated or have crushes on the opposite gender or, the same gender, even if when you have a partner. But why do we say commitment, committed to somebody? Because you have chosen to be monogamous. You have chosen to fix your partner that, okay, she or he is going to be my partner. And I'm not going to, switch on, from one person to another just because I cannot commit. So commitment in any area, commitment to, for your health, to improve your health, commitment to stay disciplined to study, commitment to your self growth, even with people who are doing private jobs or who are, working in some MNCs and corporations, they have to keep themselves on toes. Right now, skilling oneself, doing those short-term courses and all that is very important. So that commitment to self-growth is also one sort of commitment. You can't keep on wasting time over Netflix and, over social media. So please drive yourself on discipline and commitment rather than, depending on coffees of motivation, one cup of coffee of motivation. That's not how the things are going to work. Okay. So you need to be committed and disciplined. Please do an assessment. Where are your shortcomings? What's happening? And if you know that what are those shortcomings, if you're able to figure it out that, yes, maybe my essay paper didn't go well. Yes, maybe I need to work on my optional. Maybe the GS2 paper, I was expecting a very easy paper, a very different kind of paper came up. I'm not going to say difficult, but yes, maybe something unconventional, was given. So if these are your shortcomings, lack of answer writing practice, and you know about it, then please work on it and think of reattempting the exam. Okay. Then if your solid, reason is that you need a stable career, because this is the only once in a lifetime opportunity given out to you, and this is going to really, really hit you. Many students of both the genders, girls, boys alike, sometimes they are given an ultimatum that we are giving you few years to make a career of your choice, and if you will not, either you have to join the family business, or you have to get married, or you have to do something where you won't be allowed to actually pursue your interest, or you pursue your own choice of career. So sometimes families do give you an illusion of freedom, but actually you're not free. So if in your case, this situation is valid, it is applicable, that you have been given one chance to prove yourself, to have a career of your own choice, to do something with your own life of your own choice and liking, then you really, really need to reattempt. Please don't accept defeat, because in future you might not be able to get that chance. Many girls are given ultimatum that they will be married off soon if they are not able to crack the exam. Many boys are, given the ultimatum that you have to either join back the family business, or you have to start, you have to take up any local job or something, so that a, steady source of income starts coming. And due to any reasons, I'm not saying that, the people enforcing these criteria are, your enemies. No, that's not my point. Is rather than focusing on them, I'm focusing on you. I want you to realize that maybe your 20s is the time where you can take risks. Because in 30s and 40s, it's very difficult to take risk. You must have seen, the generation of our parents, your own, parents and your grandparents, maybe depending on, how young you are. And even, when I look at my parents' generation, they had a very clear mindset that, okay, let me get a job. It could be a government job, it could be a bank job, it could be, a PSU job for that matter. It could be any job. And once they enter, they will exit only when they retire. That's not how what is happening currently with the millennial generation and even with the Gen Z. So right now we are into very exploration mode kind of thought process, and which is good. We are not accepting if something is imposed on us, and if we feel that we have to switch careers, people are switching careers in their 30s and 40s too. But having the choice to switch careers doesn't mean that switching the career is going to come easy. Switching your career or taking any decision in your 30s and 40s is dependent on lot of external factors. If you are married, it's about your spouse, because whatever decision you take, your spouse is going to get affected. If you have children, then that is there. If you don't have sufficient financial savings, then you can't switch like that. So in a way, it's always your 20s where everybody is ready to support you to take that risk. Of course, risk means that maybe it can work, it cannot work, it may not work. That means, but it shouldn't never mean that you're not taking that risk. So please, if you still have got that chance, one single opportunity, that now in your 30s and 40s, you will never get a chance again like this. Then you need to give your best. You need to reattempt the exam. Right? So please keep these factors in mind and then take a call. I have tried to give out a lot of factors, a lot of questions, a lot of cross-check points. And I think even one is asking you to reattempt, please reattempt the exam. If you have decided not to reattempt, you need to stop watching this video right over here, because now I'll be coming and dealing with those issues and shortcomings which those people have to work upon improving who are going to reattempt. Okay, so now let's get into it in a more deep manner. Okay, so common reasons why students miss the cut in UPSC mains, and there are lot reasons. Okay, but yes, I told you that because I wanted to keep this session short, and of course I don't want to distract myself with a lot of reasons and whys and hows and this and that. I have tried to just stick to few basic points, few basic ideas, and trust me, if you are covering those basic points, if you feel that yes, your practice, whatever you're going to do, however you're going to prepare, is ticking off all these basic aspects, I'm sure you'll be able to crack the exam. Okay, this session is not about luck. Okay, this is simply about accepting that there are certain shortcomings, and whatever is under our control is the amount of efforts we can put in. And for some people, it's easy to get something with little bit of efforts, But for some people, you have to do 10x amount of efforts to get that same thing. I don't know the reasons. It could be anything. But yes, it's very, very natural. We have seen such examples that sometimes to get that simple thing in life, you have to put in a lot of efforts. And maybe other people get it easily. It's okay. You need to just accept that, okay, maybe I need to practice more. I need to put in more hours. Then only I'll get success. Okay. So, what are those common mistakes, common reasons? Now, I'm sure you all know this. I am not speaking something very unique, very unconventional. But see, there's a huge difference in knowing something and actually doing something about it. True or not? We all know a lot of things. We all know the benefits of physical activity. We all know the harms associated with smoking. We all know, what are the different kind of distractions that we have. But knowing is just the first step. What you're actually doing about it is where you need to really, really look into. Okay, so my first I would say the first mistake, the first major reason is lack of short concise notes. And this is again very common. Okay, even in my initial attempts, I had the same problem. I remember watching some toppers video or somebody, some faculty, I don't really remember right now, but I think somebody did ask me that, do you have notes? Show me your notes for mains. And of course, I had some notes. I had scattered notes. I had some foundation classroom notes. I had some one pager, A4, loose A4 sheet notes and all. But I never had proper notes for main syllabus. So if somebody is telling you that, okay, tomorrow you have your GS3 full length test, do you have those short, concise notes to revise it by tonight and appear for that full length test of GS3 tomorrow morning? If the answer is no, you really need to work on this. Now, everybody asks you to do this. What's the reason? The reason is plain and simple. Okay. What's the difference between prelims and mains? Prelims, you're having your MCQs. The answer is in front of you. That means out of ABCD, you have to choose one option. But in mains, you're given a blank question come answer booklet. Only the questions are printed. There's a blank page. To be able to fill up that blank page with relevant content, with content which has been questioned, which is in relevance to the question being asked, which you're modifying to suit the demand and address the question. To be able to quickly recollect that, quickly remember that, you need short, concise notes. You can't have a lot of scattered notes lying here and there, some foundation classroom notes, some random toppers, notes, and some random modules ka kabhi note nikal liya, kabhi kuch kar liya. No, don't go for that. Don't do that. What's the purpose? The purpose is simply that you have to imagine that if tomorrow, if I have a full length test and I want to revise the entire syllabus in half a day or one single day, is it possible for me? Do I possess short, concise notes for, if not 100% of the main syllabus, at least 75 to 80% of the main syllabus? So if your answer to all of this is no, you don't have those short notes with you, or your notes are too scattered, every year you're making some new sort of new set of notes. Every year you want to be perfect, and then you're throwing away all of that, you're selling off your old notes, and then you're remaking all those notes from scratch. You are reinventing the wheel every attempt, every year. Then you need to stop doing this. Of course, again, for the aspect of note making, I can go on for 30 minutes, but I'm just here to question you, to help you think and realize that maybe, for the What is the tip of the iceberg? So if the tip of the iceberg for you is lack of short notes, then of course you have to work and see underneath it that, okay, short notes are lacking. Why? What can I do about it? Okay. So keep on thinking in this way. So if you are lacking short, concise notes for multiple quick revisions, the emphasis is on multiple, the emphasis is on quick revisions. You need to revise lot of times to be able to fill that blank page of the question come answer booklet. You need to have photographic memory of those short, concise notes so that you can represent it exactly on the paper in the mains exam. And you don't need elaborated, vast notes. No. Okay. If this is your problem, if you don't know how to make short, concise notes, I'm sure there could be some YouTube videos talking about how to make notes. You can take help of somebody else. I'll try and see if I can make a video on that. But if this is your problem, then you really need to work on it. Trust me on this. Because what is the benefit? Multiple quick revisions are going to ensure quality in your answers. If today I give you, now, if you have appeared for your 25 mains and today I give you GS 1, 2, 3, 4 papers, I am sure you'll be able to write something for those 20 questions. True? You will not be leaving the pages blank. कुछ ना कुछ तो लिख ही लोगे. But ये कुछ ना कुछ लिखने के चक्कर में क्या होता है? That we tend to write average answers and then we get low scores. And then we think that I had attempted all the 20 questions, but why am I not getting a high score? Why my GS score is plateauing? It's not increasing. Why am I stuck at 380, 390, less than 400 or 410, 420? Okay, so ensuring the quality in answers is possible only when you are doing multiple revisions of your short, concise notes. Ask yourself that is there actual difference in the answers you're writing in the mains exam as compared to the ones you write unprepared, or they are the same? If your answers that you're writing in the actual mains exam is lacking in quality, is of average quality, you're writing the same thing that you will be writing coming unprepared to the exam, then you know where are you lacking. Okay. The second reason is, of course, majorly lack of adequate answer writing practice. And yes, every student, I think most of you are making this mistake. Every year you're picking up some fresh material, you're picking up some fresh module. आज इसने release कर दिया, आज उसने release कर दिया, आज ये program कर लिया. अच्छा, some people, of course, they are not enrolling into it, but then they are taking help of all those free Telegram videos. Keep on searching for those kind of new materials and videos. But what do they lack? They don't lack content. I can tell you very clearly. If you are into your 1+ attempt, even if you haven't got the chance to write mains, if you are in your 1+ attempts, at least one prelims you have written, you do have sufficient content to write a basic answer. But if you're not going for answer writing practice, if you're just telling yourself that you're lacking content, content is what is the problem, you're not writing good content, then you are just preparing yourself up for failure. Because why? I'm not saying that you are going to have outstanding content already. Because content addition, value addition, enrichment is a continuous process. You have to keep on doing that. But you can't tell yourself that, okay, by this time, I'll just focus on content and maybe I'll practice answer writing later on. If you know the basic static parts of your syllabus, you need to start answer writing. Start with simple questions like what is left-wing extremism. Start with that only. What is terrorism? What is Kashmir, or Northeast insurgency? Or, what is AI? Start with some basic questions, but don't wait that, okay, let me have all the content one day and then post that I will start answer writing. Because when you start answer writing practice, it's not just about the content. It's about understanding what's the demand of the question. It's about being able to practice over a wide variety of questions. It's about understanding that the answer writing is not just about the content, but how you structure, how you present it. So if you're majorly lacking answer writing practice, then you really need to go for it. You really need to go for it. Stop telling yourself that you're content deficient. Okay, just like all of us are vitamin D deficient, there's a common bimari going on among students and aspirants that they are content deficient. No, you don't lack in content, you lack in answer writing practice. Because after answer writing practice, you will understand that okay, if you're lacking in content, what specific content you're looking for. Instead of reading 10 different materials for emotional intelligence or self-help group or good governance or e-governance or pressure groups, let me have one basic material. Let me write a previous year question based on that material, on that particular topic in question. Let me see, was I actually able to address the demand or not? Then if you're feeling that yes, there are gaps, I don't have examples, I don't have data, I don't have some best practices, I don't have case studies, maybe I'm not able to write introduction, conclusion. Is there a possibility of including a diagram, a schematic, an illustration? If you are able to figure out those gaps, then to fill those gaps, you have to add content. But for filling that gap with that content, you don't have to sit in classes. You don't have to enroll yourself for 90, 100 days of program. You're just simply wasting your time. So what is the rule? Start with basic content. Write an answer on that basic question, that basic, that topic with your basic content knowledge. Try and see what is the lacuna, what is the shortcoming, what you are missing, where are the gaps. To fill those gaps, then you add content. Don't tell yourself that, okay, I'll read, different materials on one single topic and then, I have all the knowledge available for this topic and then only I'm going to start answer writing. That's really the problem of many students, I'm telling you. Many have lost attempts after attempts because of this problem. So don't be insecure about, gathering content and this and that, new modules launching every month and every, coaching is about that. Let them do that, of course. If you're very new, if you're just started preparing, of course, you need those classes. But I'm here focusing on people who are into their 1 or 2+ mains, who have, or even, further than that, who have not been able to get interview call. Okay, so answer writing practice, but again, there are 2 ways, and both the ways are equally important. One is, of course, that you are doing the daily practice. When I say daily, it needs to be frequent. Okay, if you can do daily, that's good. By frequent, I mean maybe alternate days, depending on what's your schedule. Okay, I can understand that maybe sometimes doing something daily is very difficult, but I would prefer going for daily, because if you have in your mind that you're going for daily practice, even if you miss one day, you have tomorrow. But if you're going for alternate, practice, there could be a possibility that maybe for 2 days you practiced alternately and then, you left it. So it's better to have in mind that you have to practice daily. Okay. Now, daily answer writing practice, what's the benefit? Either you can do it through previous year questions or some answer writing initiatives. See, enrolling into some answer writing initiatives, you're not enrolling for questions. You're enrolling yourself for discipline. You are enrolling yourself for commitment. Nowadays, you pay fees, you pay money to a person, not for, what they are providing, but for the commitment and discipline. That's equivalent, that's really relevant for dietitians and nutritionists. You know what you have to eat. If you are gluten intolerant, you are lactose intolerant, you can't consume wheat-based products. You can't consume dairy products. But why do you pay a nutritionist or dietitian? At least for one basic reason. There could be multiple reasons. Of course, I'm not denying that. But one basic reason is that you are paying them for commitment, for discipline, for accountability. So answer writing initiatives are ensuring that you're writing answer on a daily basis or on a frequent basis. Okay, so if you can't do it on your own, you're not self-disciplined, it's okay. Accept that, enroll for some daily answer writing initiative. But you need to do this. You need to practice few answers on daily basis. You can also go for previous year questions. The benefit is what? You cover a wide range of questions. You, through this daily answer, the benefit is that you cover a wide range of questions. You actually cover your syllabus. What's the benefit of writing mocks? Those 3-hour full length tests or 3-hour mocks? Because you are training yourself for actual exam. You're training yourself for time management. You're training yourself for strategy that, okay, should I attempt 15 markers first? Should I attempt 10 markers first? In optional, should I go for the compulsory questions first or the remaining ones where I have the choice? So both the answer writing practice, like one through one frequency of daily, and one some 3-hour mocks you're writing maybe every Sunday or maybe on a 10-day basis, whatever is that, you need both. And also please remember, and especially this is with multiple mains people, don't keep or don't procrastinate practicing 3-hour mocks for the time period of only after prelims. No. Yes, it could be, a thing that maybe at this point of time in the months of November, December, January, maybe when you're writing mocks, you're not able to stick to the time limit of 3 hours. That's understandable. Maybe you're taking 15 minutes, 20 minutes, even half an hour extra. That's perfectly fine. But you need to keep on practicing, because June to August is not sufficient to improve in a vast way in the aspect of answer writing. So your daily is, solving another purpose, is having another purpose. Here you have another purpose, and both of them are important. They are sort of, supporting each other. They are actually like, two best friends. So you have to actually do both of them. Doing just one is not going to really help you. But in case if you have to take a call, go for this. Go for the daily practice. And then later on, maybe you can pick up some mocks, some 3-hour mocks later on. Okay. But this is what is non-negotiable for you. This is where if you can do something about it, if you can manage few mocks before prelims, good. If you at least cannot, then ensure that post prelims, you start writing mocks in the month of June itself. Please don't wait for July, August. Please don't wait that, okay, I will write my mocks when there will be announcement of Abhyas by Vision IS. No. Because why? I'll tell you very, very basic reason. From the student perspective also, and from the people who are, or from the coaching perspective, who are launching these test series. See, from the student perspective, you need to have gaps, because by the time you're writing the test, by the time there's the evaluation and feedback coming back to you, you really need to sit with your copy to understand where you're lacking, and then only you can write the next test, ideally. If you are not getting, if you're not giving yourself this time of feedback and understanding and going through your copy that where you're lacking, then there's no use of writing these tests. I tell this to even my test series students of of essay, that don't think of writing that, oh, I'll write just before the exam 4 essay tests. No, that's not how it works. You need to write your first essay test, you need to get feedback evaluation, you need to then, based on that feedback evaluation, you have to again improve upon it, then write your second test, then again further evaluation, feedback, further improvement, then you write your test 3, and that's how it needs to happen. So from the student perspective, writing tests with gaps is what ideally is suggested, and which is not possible. You're not getting even proper 80 days. So how do you think you're going to adjust? Right? So please start as soon as possible writing your full length mocks, your full length tests of 3 hours. From the coaching perspective, the problem is that you are not the only enrolled student. You are not the only paid program student. So there is a cycle going on. If I'm getting a copy today, tomorrow or maybe by evening itself, I'll get another copy. Then tomorrow morning, I'm getting another copy. Like, and with big institutes, of course, there's a lot of copy coming every second for that matter during this, mains exam. So you can understand that for them also, they require that time to give you proper assessment and evaluation. So if you're just clubbing everything in the month of August, that okay, I'm going to write all my mocks in the month of August, that's a blunder. That's plain mistake that you're doing. And then you can't blame that, yes, I had written so many mocks, I had practiced, I had done answer writing. No, that's not called as answer writing. That's just, बोलते ना कि खाना पूर्ति करना, बस, करने के लिए कर देना है. Just to tell that, yes, because I paid for that program, I paid for those test series, so I exhausted all my tests. If you're writing all your tests in the month of later half of July and August, you are committing a big mistake. You need to start early. Maybe the quality won't be good in your initial tests. That's totally fine. But you need to start early. The more you practice, the more you give yourself time to improve upon those, feedbacks and evaluation, then only the actual improvement is there. Okay, and that is why don't depend on those June, July, August period. If there's a possibility, if you can get hold of few tests before prelims, and when I say before prelims, of course I'm not expecting you to attempt those tests in the month of March, April. No, maybe in the month of the remaining days of November, December, January, if you can write few mocks, why not go for it? You will get an idea what you are lacking, where you need to improve. So start early. Don't wait that, okay, post prelims, I'm going to do all of this. No. You need to be mains ready before your prelims. If you're not mains ready before your prelims, you can't expect an interview call. You really can't expect an interview call. Because I've seen people being mains ready before prelims and still not getting an interview call. So where is that person lying in the competition? If that person is thinking that, okay, maybe after June, I'm going to write few answers, and that maybe turns into maybe July, that July turns into, okay, second half of July, maybe 15 July onwards. Okay, then maybe, August first week, it's really not working in your favor. Okay, this is the hard and cruel truth, but it is what it is. Okay, so this is what you're lacking if you're not doing proper answer writing practice. Okay, then yes, this part and that part, I've clubbed it together to discuss. This previous year questions is where you need to understand that previous year questions, again, it's not just plainly thinking about it and practicing it, but you all mostly use previous year questions with a very wrong approach. So what's the approach? You need to understand, you need to decode the previous year questions. How? You need to understand the pattern and how UPSC is, framing the questions. What's the demand? Then when you're going through previous year questions, please keep in mind that there will be certain questions which were asked in that particular context, in that particular year's context. So if GST was launched, of course, there were, many years post GST launch, there were many, questions coming every year. Okay, so always relate it that, okay, if something was asked in the year of 23 and 24, it was asked because it was in news or it was a debatable topic. It was, a burning topic. It was a burning issue. And then you can expect similar news related questions in your current year of attempt. Then through the previous year questions, at least your duty is to prepare all static topics. And if you're still writing an average quality answer on static topics like land reforms, on food processing, on PDS reforms, on left-wing extremism, on cyber security, on, maybe geographical, topics of, from geography or disaster management, like, cyclones, no, cyclones are not they're asking. A tsunami, I think they asked tsunami. So, okay. So, those kind of like static topics where you have to be well prepared. Even in GS2, pressure groups, environmental pressure groups. So at least prepare pressure groups, and that currently they are going to ask, from the perspective of environment, because yes, pressure groups working in what, what fields? Social justice, poverty, inequality, environment, right? So develop that perspective. So if you're preparing your statics topics through it, that's what you're supposed to do. And if you're still writing an average quality answer on static syllabus based questions, you're putting yourself really out of the race. So it's not about what difficult questions you can attempt, what best answer you can write for the Chandela, that particular question of Chandela kings and rulers, right? Or what best answer you could write for the comparison between the pardoning powers of President of India and USA. But what about the remaining questions? What about the other questions? So if you're not actually writing good answers for the static syllabus topics, then how could you actually think or expect that you're going to clear the exam, right? Then mindset, of course, related to the preparation. So if you're just depending on only those 70-80 days between prelims and mains, that's again a blunder. Okay, if you're going to do fear-based writing, you're trying to play safe, you just have it in mind that I want to complete my paper anyhow. If you're going with this notion that, okay, let me just complete my paper anyhow, then that UPSC will also give you any marks anyhow. Then that result will also be, you could say based on the probability of anyhow, not being sure. So you cannot do this with yourself, okay? So don't go with the notion to play safe, to just do the work, बोलते हैं जैसे जैसे बस करके आ गए वैसा नहीं करना है, ठीक है? Don't try and complete the paper anyhow. Do it properly. Then reading too much, writing too little. I've already discussed you need answer writing practice. Inconsistency is also a major problem. You're studying for few days, then you're not studying for a larger number of days. Then you're studying for few hours, you're not studying for the next day. Then in between your answer writing practice, in between your tests, there are large gaps. If you're giving large gaps, if you're breaking down the consistency, it's going to of course create problems, because this entire preparation is like living in a focused zone. It requires a lot of concentration. If for any reason your focus is getting distracted, you're taking those breaks, you're not writing answers on a regular basis, there are large time gaps between your two tests, then how can you assume yourself to improve? Because improvement is a gradual process, it's not exponential, it never is, it never, in not just in UPSC, in life I'm telling you. Okay, so you need to have a proper routine, a schedule. Okay, it's okay to miss one deadline, that okay, today maybe I was not able to write my test, by within 2 days I have to write my test. I cannot keep on that, okay, let me think about in the next month. Then of course, if you don't know why a particular answer or paper is not clicking for you, I have seen many students not being able to score in essay in their various attempts, then of course you need to change your strategy. You need to accept that something severely is missing in your approach. If you're not able to do well in ethics paper where you see other people doing well, then you need to really take a call that okay, what is missing. Don't ignore papers where you're not able to score. And if you need external guidance and you need external help and support, please take that. If you have to redo your ethics, please do that. If you have to reorient, you have to modify your strategy of essay writing, please do that. So don't waste your time, don't waste your attempt just by assuming that हो ही जाएगा, इतना तो कर ही रहा हूँ, इतना तो कर ही रही हूँ. नहीं होगा, यही तो प्रॉब्लम है, नहीं हो रहा है. बेयर मिनिमम से नहीं होता है. In life, you have to give your best in anything and everything. You can't just live your life with bare minimum efforts. Okay, so that's what the real lesson is, that we cannot really take for granted certain things. So now a little bit idea on paper wise, okay, because just again, I cannot discuss in detail because every paper has certain approaches and strategy and certain mistakes that you're making. But here my idea is just to like give you a brief, a very overall bird's eye view kind of idea that okay, majorly these are the shortcomings in your paper, in your answer writing skills, then of course you are going to score less. So first of course is the essay paper. not just because I teach essay, but frankly, I've seen that essay is a very problematic paper for students right now because they are not able to score. So what's happening is that the real problem is that you are either ignoring the paper, you're not practicing enough essays, or you are just having cliche examples. See, the thing that I told you, bare minimum. If you're just going with bare minimum efforts, the marks will also be minimum. So you have to put in efforts. I'm not saying that you leave your GS and optional aside and you just focus on essay, but don't go with the same approach or don't go with the same preparation you had last year for your essay. At least put on some efforts, do some efforts. Don't go with those cliche examples. Wahi Gandhi, Buddha, wahi अब्राहम लिंकन, वही नेल्सन मंडेला. कुछ तो नया करना पड़ेगा ना, कुछ तो डिफरेंट करना पड़ेगा to actually force your evaluator that please give me marks, to push, to nudge your evaluator that yes, you deserve a higher marks in essay. So only cliche examples, I'm saying only. I'm not saying that you can't write Nelson Mandela, you can't write Gandhi, Buddha in your essays. I'm just saying only. So it has to be mix of conventional and unconventional examples, common and uncommon examples, so that when I read your essay, I feel that yes, something new has been written, some new perspective has been written. Otherwise, why would I feel that you are different from the other 14,000 people writing mains? So you're ignoring the paper, you're not practicing enough, you have only cliche examples, you're also doing this partial interpretation. Now, this is a big challenge because nobody is focusing on this. If you feel that these are your problems, especially the partial interpretation, please refer to my series, my YouTube series, 2 at a time. I have already completed the discussion of all the topics of 2025 paper. I am going to continue with the 24 one. I think there's already one part which is released for the 24 paper. There I'm solving it, and I'm actually trying to give you some unconventional examples, because of course I don't expect you to sit and devote hours and hours for generating those different examples and uncommon examples. So if you have time, maybe and it's the series is named 2 at a time, that means 2 topics are discussed in one video in one session, so you can have a look at it and please try and get some idea out of it, right? Then of course, lack of practice, you need essay practice, and don't leave your essay practice again for post prelims. Start your essay practice from now onwards. If not on a frequent basis, every month has 30 days, you commit that okay, at least I'll write 3 essay topics per month. Okay, so that's how you need to go for it. So practice previous year questions, you need to write them down, you need to get it evaluated, you can discuss with peer to get a lot of different ideas, and you can also watch my 2 at a time series to actually get some fresh ideas. I'm not saying that you should directly emulate whatever I've done in the 2 at a time while solving those essay, but whatever content, whatever perspective I'm trying to present over there, please keep an open mind, try and gain that. And if I'm giving you some unconventional examples over there, please make a point of it, make a note of it actually, and use it in your essays. Okay, that's actually, it will help you develop some fodder and some good content for the essay. Okay, so that's what you can do. Then for the GS 1, 2, 3 papers, if your short notes are absent, you don't possess short notes, concise notes, if you're focusing on questions which are too unconventional, you're focused on twisters, you're focused on Chandela wala question, you're focused on pardoning powers comparison, then what about the other questions? So you're focusing on these and you're trying to think, okay, why my answer is not coming best in these questions. No, you need to focus on the other doable ones. So focus on the doable ones which are at least 12 to 15 in number per paper. Do you think entire 20 questions are different and difficult and unconventional? No. So focus on those doable 12, 15 questions so that you are able to actually write good quality answers for them. The different kind of questions where, you're not having good quality content during the examination time, it's okay to write an average answer and move on. But what happens that as aspirants, we are fixated on these. We are fixated more on undoable things rather than on doable things. That's human nature. जो कंट्रोल में है उस पर नहीं फोकस करेंगे, जो अनकंट्रोलेबल नेचर का है, लक, दिस एंड दैट, ब्लेमिंग अदर्स, वहां ज्यादा फोकस करेंगे. So that's human nature and you need to take a control over that, okay? So, and what's the third point? Structuring and presentation is getting ignored. So if you're ignoring the structure presentation in your GS 1 to 3 answers, okay? Structuring means that, of course, following the, introduction, body content, conclusion. Structuring also means that you're addressing all the parts of the question. Presentation includes that if there's a possibility of including a diagram, if there's a possibility of including a schematic, if there's a possibility of improving your handwriting, making it more legible, all that is again part of this. So if you're faltering or if you're lacking on these areas, please do work on that, okay? Then the fourth point is, yes, the illegible handwriting part. And trust me, you'll find many students, many aspirants lacking because they're not able to get a high score because of illegible handwriting. If I'm not able to read it, how will I give you marks? And do you think I have patience to go through each and every word, try and figure out, okay, what is being written? No. Am I having incentive of any kind? And when I say I am, I mean, from the perspective of UPSC evaluator, they don't have incentive to go word by word in your answers because of, bad handwriting. If they can't read it, they will assume that they have read it and they will give you any marks of their liking. So if and I'm not talking about beautiful handwriting, okay, I'm talking about legible handwriting. I should be able to read the word without straining my eyes. Okay, please know that your evaluator is 45 plus year ka. Maybe he's falling on the older spectrum, and you're forcing them to really focus on your handwriting, which is not clear, very like answers written in such a bad way that it really doesn't show that you are interested to become an IAS officer. मतलब ऐसा लग रहा है कि जबरदस्ती किसी ने बैठा दिया आंसर लिखने के लिए और वही आपने किया है. सो अगर आप ऐसा करोगे तो nobody is going to give you marks. ठीक है? So please focus on these are minute aspects, but I'm telling you, sometimes minute turns into major problem. ठीक है? तो छोटी छोटी प्रॉब्लम्स को भी इग्नोर नहीं करना है, छोटे छोटे एस्पेक्ट्स को भी इग्नोर नहीं करना है. यू हैव टू फोकस ऑन दीज थिंग्स, एंड इफ यू आर लाइंग, इफ यू हैव शॉर्टकमिंग रिलेटेड टू एनी ऑफ दीज, you need to really work upon it, because you need to assume maybe everything is perfect. You have done all the previous year questions, you have done all the practice, you have given a lot of mocks, your time management is perfect, but maybe if this is the factor, then there's a good possibility that this only factor is stopping you from getting an interview call or getting even a desired rank for that matter. Sometimes people reach up to interview stage, but year by year they're not able to get a desired rank. बहुत मुश्किल से कभी रिजर्व लिस्ट में आते हैं, कभी नहीं भी आते हैं. So why is that happening? So if these kind of reasons are there, you need to really work upon it. Please don't ignore. Similarly, for in GS4, I would say many students tend to ignore case studies. ठीक है, कुछ लोग सेक्शन इग्नोर करते हैं, कुछ लोग केस स्टडीज इग्नोर करते हैं. When I say the ignoring case studies, it's not that you're not solving it. The idea is that you're not preparing for it. Prepare for case studies, develop some templates, develop some basic frameworks on how you can write case studies, okay? Practice the previous year questions of case studies so that you know what to write and how you can improve upon it. Then, of course, in GS4, there's again a persistent problem of time management. You really need to write lot of mocks, lot of, full-length tests for GS4. For example, if you're writing 2 full-length tests for GS 1 to 3, maybe for GS4 you have to write 4 to practice more, to be very comfortable with the time management. So please keep this in mind, because GS4, most of the students who are into their initial practice stages, of course they face time management issues over here. But with practice, you can easily improve it, okay? Not preparing contemporary ethical issues, that's a big mistake that you're doing. You know that there are certain, certain issues which are going on in society, and you need to prepare the ethical aspect of it. So, use of AI or the threats to, you could say, the ethical aspects of over usage of technology, usage of social media, addiction in youth, whatever is the, these kind of discussions. Of course, you've got a very nice reference of such questions from previous year questions. because UPSC in the last 2-3 years, and actually for many years, has been asking societal issues, ethical, like contemporary ethical issues based questions. So you need to, apart from the static syllabus, apart from the definitions of, fortitude and temperance and foundational values and, ethics in public and private relationships and attitude and aptitude kind of, basic syllabus preparation, you have to top it with preparation of contemporary ethical issues. Okay. Yes. Then you need to learn to apply examples rather than collecting materials. I have seen students collecting a lot of examples, a lot of, materials from toppers and this and that. But when the time actually comes, they are not able to apply it. How will you learn how to apply it? By practicing, by writing answers. So don't just, collect examples on one, some loose A4 sheets. Wherever you already have made your notes, include those examples over there so that your mind makes a connection that, okay, if I am dealing with a topic on emotional intelligence, if I am dealing with a topic on ethics in, public and private relationships, these are the examples. Then your mind will be able to connect it if you have written it in your notes at the same place. When you revise it again, your mind will make connections, and then when you're actually writing answers in the exam, you will be able to include the examples. Okay, clear? Okay, and the mool mantra is practice, practice, and practice. For GS4, you have to practice. There's no questions asked. Then with respect to your optional, now see, of course, every optional is slightly different. There are different strategies, different way of answer writing. There are different, you could say preparation methods. But then overall, I would say that there are few basic, guidelines which can always be said about. So don't depend on conventional coaching material only, okay? Because if you are going for coachings which are very popular for one subject, be it PSIR, be it, sociology, be it anthropology, be it, law, then all those students having that optional subject have the same kind of material. So yes, develop your basic material, your basic understanding from that, particular coaching's material, but please build something on top of that. Do your own value addition to it. Don't just depend on, okay, what they are, teaching you and what they are telling you. So you have to add value from your own side also. Of course, you need to, practice a lot of answer writing. In optional, I have seen that most of the optionals have large portions of static syllabus getting asked, the same themes and same topics being repeated over the years. Please develop good quality answers for it. Okay, so you need to practice a lot of answer writing for this. And then if you really want to, make optional your strength, you need to cover up 1-2 rounds of optional revision now only. When I say now only, that means from the time of November to December to January, you have to revise your optional. Don't wait that, okay, post prelims, I'll pick up my optional again. If doing 100% is not possible, if covering the 100% syllabus of optional paper 1, paper 2 both is not possible, at least select, see which portions is doable. Maybe let me target for covering 50%. Okay, let me target maybe, okay, every month, if I have 3 months, maybe 25%, 25%, 25%. I can cover up, I can cover up 75% of the syllabus in 3 months. So that's how you need to plan. Don't depend on future. Okay, please utilize the time. Imagine that you're going to have your mains in next 3 months. Prepare like that. Prepare with that mindset. Do a lot of answer writing practice. I'm telling you, any lacuna, any shortcoming that you have, maybe you're not able to remember, your memory is not good, your answer writing skills is not good, your content is not up to the mark. With answer writing practice over the period of time, you will be able to solve all these problems. Trust me on this, because when you start writing the answers, you will realize where you're exactly lacking. And then to, fill that shortcoming, fill that lack, you will, of course, put in efforts. If you're lacking example, you will search for the examples, relevant examples for that topic. Of course, you will do that, right? Okay, so that's what you need to do. And what are the closing thoughts? So I have few issues, and in the sense that I want to highlight few things which are going on, as a market trend or the trends in the coaching industry. So please remember that you should stop enrolling yourself into random courses with little, cost benefit ratio. So if you're enrolling into yourself into 90, 100 days of courses, which that actually, few questions will be asked, you can maybe increase your productivity and efficiency if you're not sitting in the class. So be very, careful when you're enrolling for such courses. I really have problem with such kind of, modules and courses being released, which are just burdening the student with lot of material and lot of PDFs. And you tend to start thinking that, okay, now I am in a comfortable zone because I have joined this class, I have joined this module. Now my this subject is sorted. I don't have to do anything. And you just put yourself, you deceive yourself, you put yourself under this illusion that now that subject is sorted. No, enrolling yourself into any classroom program, any theoretical based, classroom program, any module is not going to, fill the gaps in your answer writing. The answer writing practice needs to be done by you. And if you have to take a call that maybe I need to put in more time for answer writing practice and I don't want to devote and waste my time sitting in the classes, 3 hours and 2 hours and covering just one or two relevant topic, then, you have to take a call that what you need to go for actually. Okay. So don't put yourself in cocoon of lectures and PDFs. Don't put yourself into that false comfort zone. But yes, you should, as a sincere aspirant, should enroll into at least one test series, any one slash answer writing initiative slash mentorship program. Okay. So don't be completely dependent on free material being, given out on Telegram. Don't feel that, okay, because I've done my foundation, I've done this and that, now I'm done. And you did your foundation in your first attempt and now it's your third or fourth attempt, and in between you have not done anything. You have not enrolled for any validation, you did not enroll for any test series, you did not put in, efforts. Then of course you are just, you are competing with the students with the quality of competition which you had during your foundation years. And that's not the reality. You're sitting in 2025, you can't compare what you had done in the year of 21 or 22 or in your foundation, coaching year. So do not enroll yourself into modules and irrelevant theory classes, but you need some answer writing program, you need some test series, or you need a mentorship program, especially if you have accountability and discipline issues. If you yourself cannot make yourself accountable that, okay, this is my task for today, if you're not self-disciplined, then you need an external enforcement. Just like some people need a trainer, a physical trainer in gym. They know that, okay, they have to lift weights, but sometimes they're able to do only when the physical trainer is standing and the trainer is pushing them. That, okay, madam, 5 kg का डंबल से अब कुछ नहीं होगा, अब आगे बढ़ते हैं. या 2 kg के छोटे छोटे डंबल से कुछ नहीं होगा, अब 5 kg उठाओ. So that's what the work of mentor is. Right, pushing you that सिर्फ 5-6 घंटे की पढ़ाई से कुछ नहीं होगा. You have to push for more hours. See, even if you do a job, do you think by doing 5-6 hours of job is going like in a full-time job, okay, is it going to be sufficient? Are you going to be, considered for promotion and appraisals by your boss if you're just working for 5-6 hours? No. So if in a job environment, we are there to work for 8 to 10 hours, and please don't bring me that, toxic culture of work and this and that and, more working hours incentive. Please don't bring that. I'm just being very, logical over here. I'm just trying to tell you that in any job, you're supposed to work a certain minimum number of hours, and that minimum number of hours is 8 to 9 or to 10, depending on whatever is the, kind of job profile or work profile you have. So why are we satisfied by just reading for 4-5 hours? Preparation for UPSC civil services is a full-time job. And if you're a full-time aspirant, then what are you doing? Why you're not studying? And I'm not saying that you can't cultivate hobbies or you don't have time for yourself. You can't go for recreational activities. You can't, do physical activity. No, you can still do it. It's just that you need to be very productive, very efficient with your time management skills. So just going for 4 to 5 hours of study, लाइब्रेरी में गए 2-4 घंटे बैठे, फिर मुंह उठा के वापस निकल गए चाय के बहाने, फिर वापस ही नहीं गए, फिर रात में कभी शाम में घूमते घूमते चले गए, ऐसी पढ़ाई नहीं होती है. And this is, really, really relevant for people who have not been able to clear prelims, and people who are not able to clear mains. कुछ ना कुछ जो मैंने आज बोला है, आई एम श्योर यू विल बी एबल टू आइडेंटिफाई विद इट. ठीक है, और अगर नहीं आइडेंटिफाई कर पा रहे हो, प्रॉब्लम कुछ और ही है, यू आर फ्री टू मैसेज मी ऑन टेलीग्राम. ओके, राइट. देन you need to ensure accountability, discipline and commitment versus bland dependency on motivation. हाँ, तो क्या करना है? We have to be accountable. We have to be accountable to ourselves. We have to be self-disciplined. We have to be committed to our goal, to do something in our 20s so that our 30s, 40s, 50s are sorted. And last but not the least, please have faith in yourself. Okay? Please don't doubt yourself. Don't pull yourself down because the world is already doing it for you. You don't have to ask for such favors. The world is filled with people who are going to doubt you, who are going to be negative about you, who are going to pull you down, who are really, really going to, seed, putting the seeds of, underconfidence in you. Don't be your own enemy. You already have so many enemies. So don't pull yourself down. Gather yourself. Gather your energy. Stand up again. I know it's a big setback. I am not denying it. Maybe today, after this session, at this point of time, you're like, I have done all of this. I already have my short notes. I already done answer writing. I've already done mocks. Maybe you are not able to figure out what's not working for you. What's that wrong thing or that one mistake? Or why simply you're not getting an interview call. But still, I would say, even if you don't get an apparent reason in front of you, any apparent shortcoming, it's okay. Pull yourself up, pull yourself together, stand upright, and again fight. Fight again. Life is full of challenges. I am not just talking about from UPSC perspective that you have to just fight for this career. Even if you go for any career choice, even if you go for business, even if you're going for self-employment, nothing is easy. Nothing worth having comes easy. If something is easy, you will never appreciate it. Trust me on this. You will never appreciate. If something is being handed out to you, in a very casual way, without any efforts, you are never going to appreciate it. So, the things you want in your life, be ready to fight for it. Be ready to put required efforts. Okay, on that note, I wish you all the best. I wish you strength. I wish you the wisdom to see the shortcoming in your preparation, to see what is really lacking, and work accordingly to improve upon it. Take care. Bye-bye.